Dharma Talk portion of our Sunday Dharma program. So nice to have you all here on this beautiful cloudy day that we're having. Giving our introductory talk today is going to be Jeff Partidge. Jeff Partidge is one of the residents here at the Providence Zen Center, as well as our house master and guest master. He's been practicing here at the Providence Zen Center for a decade and a half now, about 15 years or so, and is one of our Dharma teachers in training, an overall good human being. And then, then answering questions today is going to be Colin Beavan JDPSN. When I pull up Colin Beavan's biography online, it just goes straight to his Inka speech. So give me 2 seconds and I'll pull up my secondary biography source for him because I am prepared.
There's 2 different ones.
You could just say overall good guy.
Okay, Colin Beavan JDPSN, live from online, overall good guy. Colin, are you in New York right now or Massachusetts?
I'm in Narragansett.
Okay, coming to you live from Narragansett. Colin Beavan JDPSN. Amagansett, okay. Coming to you live, Colin Beavan JDPSN, good guy. So thank you both for your talks today. And Jeff, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's been a long time since I've had to do this, so please bear with me. When I was asked to give this talk a couple weeks ago, I was like, well, what am I going to talk about? So I went and asked Wan Il Sanim and Kwan Sanim for some talking points, and they gave me some, so I'm going to work off that. The first thing I want to talk about today, real briefly, is what we do here. And what we do here is we practice don't know mind. Zen Master Seung Song was famous for saying, I never met him, but what I heard he was famous for saying was, I don't teach Korean Buddhism, I don't teach Zen, I only teach don't know. And what he did was, he didn't actually teach anyone don't know. It's up to us to actually investigate that for ourselves. But what he did was he gave us forms and techniques in order for us to have the space so we can investigate that for ourselves. So we do bowing, we do chanting, we do sitting, we do Kongan practice. And we live together and we work together and we use these forms so we can see our true nature, we can see our karma, and we can begin to digest it a little bit. So that's just a little bit what we do here. Next, I kind of want to talk about a little bit what brought me to Zen. A lot of people, some new faces here, a lot of people know me, but they maybe don't know my backstory and how I got into this. So when I was in college, I started getting into martial arts a little bit. You know, I started having a question sort of appear, like, what's the point of my life here? What am I doing here? And I looked into, you know, whenever I would do some research, Buddhism kept coming up as an option for me to, or a pursuit to study to answer these sort of questions. And I think because I was so young and I still had such a big ego, I did learn a little about Zen Master Seung Song and meditation a little bit. But I decided, I don't know if I tried sitting for more than 5 minutes. It just didn't work for me when I was that age. Just too much thinking and going on. So I got into martial arts instead. I'll be like, well, I can get enlightenment from martial arts. I don't have to worry about the sitting. They're both the same sort of practice or something like that. Well, nonetheless, that just didn't work out for me. I remember actually writing to the director at the time. His name was JW. This was probably back in the late 90s. And I wanted to have an interview with Zen Master Seung Song, but he was already in Korea at this time. He was older and sicker. So the director wrote back to me very politely that, you know, it wouldn't be possible to have an interview with Zen Master Seung Song. And I decided, well, if I can't have an interview with the enlightened Zen Master, I don't want an interview with anyone, so just forget it. And I kind of just did my own thing for 20 years. I kind of did I got my career in just sort of got on with my life and kind of was just a young person doing young person stuff. But by the time I got to 29, things had kind of hit a point, like none of my questions had been resolved. Who am I? What am I supposed to do with my life? You know, I'm almost 30 years old and I still haven't figured this out. At the time I was working for a group home on the Butler campus. Butler is a mental hospital. I didn't work for Butler, but I worked for a group home / school that rented buildings. And I was doing the awake overnight shift. And I think because I know the lack of sunlight, the lack of sleep, and because I was just around all these suffering children, my own suffering kind of hit a critical mass. And I remember one night typing into my BlackBerry, just completely distraught. What am I? And what came up, the first thing on the Google search was Quantum School of Zen and Zen Master Sing Song. And I'm like, oh, I remember this from about 10 years ago. So I went on the website that night and I digested as much information as I could. And I'm like, this is the stuff I've been looking for. I can't believe I put it off for so long. So at the time, I still didn't really have the courage to come here and practice. But lucky for me, my teacher who I met was Jason Quinn JDPSN. He was online on Twitter at the time. So I sent a message to him and he got right back to me. And we had some dialogues back and forth. And again, lucky for me, he was practicing at the time online. He was living in an empty gate Zen Center in California, and he was streaming his Sunday morning practices. So I got to actually learn some of the forms and the teachings with him online before I even came here. And this was back in, I think, 2009. Maybe after 6 months or so of doing that with Jason, he started, gently urging me, I think it's time that you go to the Zen Center and practice with people in real life. And so I did. And then when I came here, everyone was very welcoming. There was a lot of people in the same situation as me. That's what I'll say. We're all people that recognize that, oh, I have suffering. I have these questions that I need to answer. And at the Zen Center, you have people that are trying to find the answers to their own questions. I saw a quote by Zen Master Kwan the other day that I think kind of hits this nail on the head. What was the quote? It was something like, I know you can solve the problem of life and death, but will you? So here we have people that are working on that problem of solving the question of life and death. So I started practice. I came here in 2009, 2010. I took 5 precepts in 2011. I started working here as a director around then. And I made so many good relationships, friends, good Dharma friends. And it's just good to be part of a good practicing community. So that's how I got here. Next, they wanted me to say, how does Zen help me? And I don't like this question, but if you want me to be direct and honest with you, I'll say it's helping me right now, because right now I'm doing something that I don't want to do. I don't want to be up here streaming online, speaking about my practice and being vulnerable in front of a whole group of people some people I don't even know, but I'm doing it. When we practice these forms and these techniques, it shows us our karma, and it shows us, just because we think we don't like to do something actually doesn't mean that we don't like to do it. Sometimes we just have an idea. A quick story about that is, I remember when I was 15 years old, my parents wanted to do a family trip to Disney World. And I thought this was a terrible idea. I did not want to hang out with my family. I did not want to go to Disney World. 2 weeks in Florida. I just wanted to hang out with my friends, play guitar, that kind of stuff. Well, if you look at the pictures of me in Disney World, it's just smile ear to ear. I had such a good time. But I went kicking and screaming the whole time. But once I was there, I loved it. So we always have this idea about how it's going to be or how it's supposed to be. But if we can learn to put down our idea and just follow the situation, we can find true freedom and joy in that. The last thing they wanted me to talk about was helping all beings. This is a big central part of our practice. Zen Master Sing Song taught that the purpose of Buddhism was first we get enlightenment, and then we help all beings. Well, how do we do that? So every morning we wake up, we start with our 4 great vows. Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to save them all. That's the first vow. And this is good because this sets our intention. It sets our direction for the day and the rest of our lives. We see a problem, we're going to work to fix that problem. The way I heard this described again from Zen Master Swing Song was, if you see somebody sick, you make them comfortable. If you see someone who's hungry, you give them food. Okay, just very simple. Follow the situation just like this. And I'm going to wrap it up real quick with a story that kind of explains that. This comes from the Jewish tradition, I believe. I forget the rabbi's name that came up with this, but I think it really paints a real good picture of the world that we all kind of live in and the world that we can live in. So someone once asked this rabbi, what's the difference between heaven and hell? And he said, well, if you go into hell, you'll walk into this beautiful banquet hall full of all the best foods you could ever imagine. But you'll see these beings on each side of the table that are starving, because they have these arms, or they have these things that are attached to their arms, like these giant forks and spoons that are too long, so they can't get the food out of the plate and put it into their mouth. But they're all starving, and they're trying to feed themselves with this wonderful food. He said, okay, so what's heaven? He says, well, takes the person asking the question into a second room. It's the exact same scenario. You have this wonderful food on the table. You have the same beings with the same appendages, but instead of trying to feed themselves, they grab the food, they reach across the table, and they feed the person across from them. So I think that's a good picture of the situation that we all kind of find ourselves in a lot of the times. We're all kind of just trying to make a good situation just for ourselves. But if we stop and we look around, we see that everybody's in the same situation as us, then we can reach across the table and begin to nourish each other as well. Okay? So thank you very much. That's the end of my talk. And I'll give it over to Colin.
Diego, are you guys going to be able to make it so I can see everybody? But I can't see you. It's just a black box. Oh, okay. It used to be that you guys had a camera where I could see the audience. Okay. Well, hi, everybody. Colin, it's nice to see you all. I can't see you, so it's really weird. Like I'm just talking at a black screen. But I'll do my best. Jeff, thank you so much for your speech. Oh, now I just get to see myself. That's even worse. Also, but I don't know if the tech people can do anything about it, but we're hearing an echo. Like we have to listen to it twice, which is also even worse. Jeff, thanks so for your talk. I was thinking while you were speaking that if anybody wants me to solve the great problem of life and death for them, please let me know. I'll be glad to do that free of charge. Or also answer this question, how do you save all beings? Both of those free of charge. If anybody's particularly interested in those questions, we can fix that all right here, right now. Anyway, are there any questions? Can you guys hear me in the Zen Center or no? Okay, so are there no questions? I can't tell what's going on because I can't see you. What's going to happen? No, I said, what's going to finding that piece of knowing? What do you mean, Kira? No. What you said, piece about that it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. I don't know, what's you're talking about? Going to happen? I think I'm cutting out. So when I'm speaking else, I'm cutting out because okay. So no, it's not the echo. So Gary, the echo is not happening at my end. It's happening at the Zen Center. So I'm assuming you can still hear me, but I okay. I'm going to try to answer the question without Kira clarifying what the question was. Yeah, this is very difficult without it being answered because now I can't hear you guys at all, so we can't be interactive. And I didn't understand Kira's question. So I'm just going to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read you a story I like. Sorry, Kira, I can't exactly answer your question because I can't hear you guys. So I'm going to read you this story because I think it's a really important story. This is from Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, right? And actually, I'm going to tell you how this story came to be important to me. I cry a lot, and I don't mean that I always cry when I'm sad. I cry sometimes. I'm overwhelmed. Like the other day, I went to the beach, and and it was just so beautiful. You know, the fall is here, so the ocean has calmed down, and it was a beautiful color, and the color of the light was so beautiful. And I turned to my right, and there was this couple, a man and a woman, and they were sitting facing each other, kind of with their like both facing each other, and then kind of inside each other's legs, if you know what I mean. So and then cuddling each other and loving each other, and just the whole scene was so it made me cry. I was just like, wow, look, it's such a beautiful world, and these two people are in love. And in point of fact, then I started to walk on the beach, and I walked past the two people. It turns out they were two people I knew, and it was very sweet. And I was talking to my own teacher about that, and sometimes having a sense of like the awe that I sometimes feel when I see the world. It can't be transmitted, right? This is the whole thing about our practice, actually, is that no one of us can transmit to anybody else the mind before knowing, right? The mind that just sees blue is blue, green is green, red is red, right? We can't transmit it. We can't transmit it for two reasons. One, because it's not mine to give, it's already yours. And second, each of us already has it. So it's impossible to transmit. But anyway, there's this story in Zen Flesh, Zen Bones that my own teacher, Zen Master Kwan, I had shared to him this experience of sometimes seeing beautiful things and crying, and then being a little sad because I couldn't share it. So this story is called "The Moon Cannot Be Stolen." And it goes like this. Royakan, a Zen master, lived the simplest kind of life in a little hut at the foot of a mountain. One evening, a thief visited the hut, only to discover there was nothing to steal. Royakan came back and caught the thief. And then he said to the thief, "Oh, you must have come a long way to visit me. And you shouldn't have to leave empty-handed. Here, let me give you my clothes." And he stripped naked and he gave the thief his clothes. And the thief was like, "What the hell is going on?" And then the thief took off. And then that night, Roy kind of went outside to meditate naked, as he always did, but this time naked. And then he saw the moon. And he looked, oh God, he said, I wish I could have given that beautiful moon to that guy. It's really such a lovely story, I think. And there's two sides to the story. There's the thief side, right? And then the thief thinks that there's something that he needs, right? In fact, the thief thinks they need it so much that they have to steal it. Our minds are like that. There's something that's going to make me feel at peace. You know, maybe it's a house, maybe it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend, maybe it's a trip, maybe it's more money, but there's something that's going to make me feel at peace. And I have to get it, right? I have to get that thing. And to the point where we actually do things to ourselves and other people that cause them and us to suffer, right? So to the point where we would go into a Zen master's hut and try to steal what the Zen master has. By the way, if you are going to steal, don't try going into an ancient Zen master's hut, because they're probably not going to have so much stuff. There's better places to steal. So we were chasing after something, and we try all these things like, and by the way, if you get all the money, nothing wrong with getting money, nothing wrong with getting a big house, nothing wrong with getting a partner. But just to say, if you get those things, this feeling of wanting peace will not be gone. You'll just be like, when I say you'll just be like, what I mean is I am just like, where's the next thing? Because this didn't work. I mean, that's how they managed to get us to buy a new cell phone every year and a half. Like the moment you get your cell phone, I just got a new cell phone. Look. The moment you get a new cell phone in the mail, they show you an ad for a better cell phone, and you're immediately dissatisfied with the cell phone that you got 10 minutes ago, right? That's what our minds are like, because our mind is looking for something, right? It's made up an idea of something that doesn't actually exist, right? We're constantly chasing after it and imagining this thing will give me it. This thing will give me it, right? It's what it is extinction of life almost that we're looking for, right? So anyway, so the thief comes, and the thief is doing the thief's thing, which all of us do, which is doing stupid shit to try to get something we can't even have. So he's trying to steal from a Zen master. It turns out that the only thing the Zen master actually has to give, which the Zen master cannot actually give, is the moon. There's only one thing that we can have, and we already have it. Right? We don't have to steal for it. We don't have to work for it. In Christianity, there's this concept of grace, which means in Christianity that we're given that which we don't even deserve, because we are it. We're not given it, we are it already. And this thing that we're given already, the only thing we can have, which we already have, that we're running around trying to find it, it's right in front of your eyes, ears, nose, body, mind. And by the way, the problem of life and death is not included in it. So I said earlier, and I'm just talking, I'm not listening because I can't hear you, so I'm just going to talk for a little bit and then I'll take another question. I said earlier, it was a joke. Like, if you want me to solve the great problem of life and death for you, please step forward. And if you said, please solve the great problem of life and death for me, what I would say to you is, bring me the problem of life and death and I will solve it for you. And you might think you might say, well, my mother did this and my father did that. And I said, well, that's great, but that's all thinking. Just bring me the problem of life and death, right? I want you to bring me the actual problem of life and death. In fact, any problem, bring me any problem. And at any moment, I said, that's just more thinking. Bring me the actual problem, right? Sooner or later, you would have to say, I've looked everywhere, but I can't find the problem of life and death. Because there's no problem of life and death at this point in our experience right here. There's only this. There is no problem of life and death. So that's why you can't find it, right? And I can't find it. And then when finally you admitted, I can't find the problem of life and death, then I would say to you, then I have solved the problem of life and death for you, right? Now, that's a clever Zen way of speaking. And you might be able to understand what I'm saying conceptually. And I can understand what I'm saying conceptually, but to truly attain it is the point. And to truly attain it means come back here over and over again before thinking, right? Over and over, right? So in Buddhism, we have a concept of delusion, and we also have a vow. Delusions are endless. We vow to cut through them all. That means that we constantly are leaving this point. Delusions are endless. We're constantly covering this point up with thinking. And then our practice is to return back to this point. This is the point before thinking. It contains all time and all space. I can prove that to you too. Like, find me any time and space that's not contained in that point. So it must contain all time and space. We just come back over and over. What is this? Don't know. What is this? Don't know. Like that, right? That's delusions are endless. We've had to cut through them all. The Christians have the concept of sin, which means separation, right? So how do we atone? In Buddhism and Zen, we atone just coming back to this moment. Because if we come back to this moment before thinking, right, then we are not obsessed with this problem of life and death because we can't find it. Not being obsessed with the problem of life and death means that we're right here. Being right here means we can see and hear each other, which is like Jeff was talking about. So we're sitting at the table with these utensils, and we don't say, oh, I'm hungry, please, would you feed me? But what we see is, oh, that person over there is hungry. Let me feed you. Not because we say, even, how can I help? But just because when our minds are clear before thinking, already what other people need becomes clear in front of your face. What I need becomes clear in front of my face. Anyway, that was a monologue I pulled out of the air with no prompting whatsoever because I didn't understand the question and I can't hear you guys at all. So does anybody else want to ask me a question? Maybe turn on the mic again and ask me a question, or because I actually can talk for 3 days straight without anybody asking me a question. Wait, I'll tell you what, you Zoom people, you could turn your cameras on. So I at least felt like there's one person with their camera on. Thank you very much, Mary. So I see one person, but maybe the Zoom people could turn their cameras on, and then I would really feel like I wasn't alone with Mary. I like you, Mary. I don't mind being alone with you. No, thank you. Okay, now I see real people. I have no idea whether the Zen Center people are even still with us or not. Okay, anybody want to ask a question? Neither do you, by the way. What's your name? Claire. It's nice to hear you. Claire, you said, could you talk about the formless that's before speech? I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at you and all of us. How can you talk about the formless without speech? But the formless without speech has already appeared. Yeah. So the formless without speech, Claire. I'm looking at the formless without speech right now, and what I see is some bushes, and there's a beautiful black and white and red woodpecker. Of course, you see the brown floor, the computer in front of me, Harry Shapiro's beautiful face on the screen. Don't be tricked by words like formless, before speech. Everything, Claire, I promise you. Everything you could possibly need is inside your eyes. It's your eyes see it, your ears hear it, your body touches it, your nose smells it, your tongue tastes it, your mind perceives it. Okay. If you look around Providence Zen Center, there's a big gold Buddha, and then some of your friends or friends to be are sitting by you. In this moment, there isn't anything possibly more we could need. So Penny knows that. Penny knows that even when Penny is hungry and she cries, she knows that all she needs at that moment is, ah! Right? And Claire, you and I together, we're going to help each other, just like Jeff's heaven, right? We're going to help each other, and we're going to sit and we're going to get practice at this. Just come back here. It's very important. It sounds like such a trivial teaching. Floor is brown, wall is white. And a lot of times, like when you go into a Kwan interview, the answer will be floor is brown, wall is white. And all students, including me, get to a stage where like, this is just ridiculous. The answer to everything seems to be the floor is brown, wall is white. This is ridiculous. Kangans are stupid. But it's like riding a bicycle, right? That somehow or another, somebody's running behind you, holding the seat to your bicycle, and you're pedaling and you're not riding, right? So you don't really have it yet, right? But you're doing it over and over again. And then one day that person lets go and you're riding by yourself. And so one day this idea that like the floor is brown, the wall is white becomes very clear, and it's not an idea. And you see what you've been answering these Kangans, floor is brown, wall is white forever, and thinking it's stupid. And then suddenly you're like, oh my God, the floor is brown, the wall is white, right? The woodpecker is out there. We're talking. You're, by the way, you honor me by coming forward with your very genuine and sincere question about that little baby, right? But you did forget one part, Claire, which is that situation. You imagine that Penny is perceiving everything so clearly, right? But you forgot that in your experience was you perceiving Penny, right? So you made up an idea of yourself, and I'm not judging you. This is what we do. This is what the human mind does. I know what I'm about to tell you because I do it at every moment too, but delusions are endless. We've got to cut through them all. So over and over and over, come back here, right? So you looked at Penny and you saw her perceiving her life so clearly because she's a baby, right? And then your mind, and in that moment, I'm going to venture to say, you felt joy. You were just like, oh, Penny the baby. She was like, whatever she was seeing, oh. And then you were like, oh. And then, and then this is what we do. This is when the delusion comes up. You kind of made up this idea. I'm Claire. I'm not Penny. Penny's young. She's innocent. I'm tainted and cynical and skeptical and make up a lot of problems in my mind. How do I get to be like Penny? But you forgot that in the moment you perceived Penny, you were exactly like Penny. Me too. And here's I'm just going to say this one last thing, Claire. Here's another hard part, that perceiving the thought that I'm Claire and grown up and cynical and not like Penny, right? Perceiving that thought is also like Penny. Oh, look at that thought. I'm old and Penny's a baby and I suck and she's great. perceiving that thought is also, right? Even at that moment, you already have it, right? So I'll say this, there's a teaching, the Lotus Sutra, the basic teaching of the Lotus Sutra is see all beings and everything as Buddha, become Buddha, right? Just don't judge anything. So we have this practice and we come to the Zen Center and we sit on the mat and we practice, coming back to the moment and not judging things. And then our minds go away, we come back, our minds go away, we come back, mind go away, we come back. So we develop a kind of muscle of coming back, right? So that's why we come to the Zen Center and sit. So just develop that muscle and come back. But remember this, that the moment that you're back, even when you don't think you're back, when you're just, you don't even have to think, don't know, or it's like it's all already done. And all that makes it undone is the thought it's not done. Okay, if I was there, Claire, I would be able to see either you smiling or looking confused. Or if you were on the screen, but I can't see that. So I hope my answer has helped you in some way. Any other questions? Self-deprecation. Manuela, I don't mind just answering it based on what you said, but really I prefer to know what makes that question important to you, if you want to share. I guess it's because you're hoping to help your friends or family. Is that right? Yeah. One thing, I'm going to tell you something. This is not callous, but I'm going to say this one part and then I'm going to move on. I said before, see all beings as Buddha, become Buddha. So that means trying to see the people around us as being perfect, even in their problems, right? Seeing our capacity to help as being perfect, even as we feel we're not helping. And that's like, on a very basic level, I can explain it. That's like when you're playing pool. If you're really nervous because somebody you're attracted to is watching and you really want to get the shot to impress the person you're attracted to, or there's a lot of money riding on the game and you're really nervous, it's hard to make the shot. If you see that if you completely are relaxed, you can make the pool shot. So there's something about being in don't know, even as we see people suffering, right? Which can sound callous, but being in like, I don't know that their situation is bad. I don't know, even though I don't think that I'm helping, that I'm not helping. Just being like relaxing into not judging the situation, right? And then from that point, now, I don't know if this is really going to help you or not, Manuela. Like this is a question that would be really good for you to bring to interview with a teacher where you can have more of a conversation about it. And we even could have a little bit more of a conversation here if it weren't for the problems with the audio and everything. But so I'm going to offer something, and it may not hit your bullseye, but I'm going to offer it, but it may hit somebody else's bullseye. Okay. Meaning what I'm going to say, which is a student came to Zen Master Sung Song and said, how do we help people? And Zen Master Sung Song said, first do together action. So I have a niece, she's 15, and she was visiting me with her mom last weekend. And she gets episodic depression, and she gets it really bad. And it's sad to see in a 15-year-old. But so in helping her, the first thing I did was I talked to her about how I get depressed sometimes. That's together action. Oh, I'm just like you. Oh, sometimes you say, have you ever come across somebody that who tends to shout when they're speaking and you'd like them to speak a little softer? Some people will be like, so I spoke softer like this to try to get them to do it. But actually, if you really want the other person to just speak softer, what you do, if they're shouting it, they're like, so what did you do today? You go, I drove the car. Like, you speak at the same level as them. And then they say, what did you do? And then you go, now that you're matched with them, you take it down just a notch. You go, I drove to the mall. And then they will match you like this. So you first be with, right? Don't make ourselves separate from others, right? So my niece, I told her about also how depressed I was in fact, I was in the bad grips of drugs and alcohol when I was 15. I told her about that. And then we talked about that for a while. And we talked about our similarities and everything, and how we're both human beings suffering from delusion, if you like. And then I started to talk about how I healed, and the hope that I felt for her, because I know so many people like her who have been sad and healed. And it cheered her up for a moment. It didn't fix everything, but it cheered her up for a moment. That's the thing. Sometimes they're like, I'm going to fix you. That's why we can't see anybody as broken, because if we see them as broken, we try to fix them. If we try to fix them, we're a little bit screwed. So it cheered her up for a moment, right? And that was good. And then something happened and she had a depression this week. So I did it again, right? So it's like, we be in it. This is, so like I say, Manuela, this may not apply to your situation, but it's somebody, I don't know how many people are listening, will apply to somebody's. It certainly applies to mine. So we help, and then they're helped for a minute, but then they're unhelped again. So we just help them again. And then they're unhelped, and we help again. And we helped again, right? So like so. Well, I hope that arrow hit some bullseye. Any other questions? Oh, maybe one more question and then we'll go. Or is it time to end? I don't know. Oh, thank you. Last word. But first of all, I'll just say, if there's any way for teachers to be able to actually see the Zen Center, it's hard. It's definitely hard if you can't see people. So I don't know, maybe that can be on one Yeltsin's list for the future. Last words. You know what? It's funny. We have a kangan called Doksan's Bowls. And the story goes like this. It's hard for me to do this off the top of my head because I have a hard time remembering the names. But there is one. I'm going to jump to the middle of the story. So basically the beginning of the story is Doksan starts to go to the Zen people, to the Dharma room, carrying his bowls as though it's a meal. And the head monk stops him and says, Zen master, where are you going carrying your bowls? The drum has not been struck and the bell has not been rung, meaning the signal for mealtime has not happened. So Doksan, the Zen master, just turns on his heel, goes back to his room. Well, the head monk's like, what's up with the Zen master? Like, he's not doing the things and the routines that happen around the Zen center, or the monastery. So he goes to see the head monk. So he's a housemaster. He goes to see the head monk and he tells him what happened, the head monk. And at that moment, the head monk said, oh, great though is Zen master Doksan does not understand the last word. So I'm telling this story because, Diego, you said any last words? So last word in Zen actually means no words. Last word in Zen just means follow your situation. So when he said that about Daksan, he said, Zen Master Daksan was not following his situation. He doesn't understand the last word, right? So last word means what is correct action in this moment? And it doesn't mean to get the thing that I want, because that's delusion. What it really means is if you come back to this point, right, and just watch, your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind will the correct action will arise all by itself, right? That means if we can return to this not knowing mind over and over, right, then slowly but surely our behavior will become more in line with what we see. We will understand the last word. Our behavior will naturally follow our situations more, right? We will cause less suffering for ourselves, less suffering for others. Then our minds will be less disturbed. Their minds will be less disturbed. And then we'll be even better at seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, and even better at following the situation, the last word next time. Until at last, as they say, all of us get to enter nirvana together, which of course we already did, but it's a nice story. So thank you for listening to me. I hope it was okay with all the sound problems.
So thank you both for your talks. Just a couple of announcements to close us out. First, we have a couple of retreats coming up. The first is going to be a 2-day Youngman Jinjin with Dennis Dermeyer JDPSN. That'll be November 2nd through the 3rd. You're invited to come do 1 day or the entire weekend. If you do the entire weekend, we'll of course provide lodging for you here at the Zen Center. Following that, there's going to be a Christian Buddhist retreat with Zen Master Tangong on Saturday, November 16th. And of course, we're going to have our annual 7-day Youngman Jinjin with Zen Master Sung Hyung, that's Bobby Rhodes, our guiding teacher of the Quantum School of Zen, and that's going to be December 8th through the 14th. If you've been coming around for a while and have a strong connection with our practice, we are going to be having a precept ceremony coming up. This is going to be on Buddha's Enlightenment Day celebration on Saturday, December 7th. And the precepts are a way of kind of aligning yourself with this style and practice and formalizing your commitment to it. If you'd like to learn more about it, you can speak to anyone wearing robes. If you're interested in taking precepts, there are some requirements, which you can speak to our guiding teacher, Kwan about. Our Dharma school is going to continue. This is every other Sunday for ages 6 through 12, and the next one is going to be not this Sunday, but not the following Sunday either, but probably the one after that. Is Lisa still here? She's not here. 27th, thank you. With that in mind, next Sunday there is going to be no Sunday Dharma program. It is going to be our Dharma teacher weekend here, and so this is one of the very few Sundays that we won't be having it. So you don't need to stay at home, but you can't come here. In addition, we have a couple of non-retreat events coming up. We're going to have an upcoming town hall, a Zen's Giving dinner in November, and of course a Volunteer Appreciation Day in November. So for more information, please check our billboard out front or online at providencezen.org. For those of you who do not know, we also have a Wednesday night community dinner at 5:30, as well as our regular evening practice and Kongan interviews. So consider coming on Wednesday nights to experience some more of our practice with our chanting, Kongan interviews, and practice in the main Dharma room. Last and not least, practice is always free. Streaming and electricity are not. If you would like to help support us, we do very gratefully accept donations, and in fact rely on it for 30 to 40% of our income to keep this place running. So if you find this practice helpful for you and you want to help keep these doors open so anyone can come access this free of charge, please consider donating or signing up to become a member of the school. So thank you all again for coming, and I wish you all a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Take care.